Okay, whenever you're bleeding brake lines, you always start with effectively the brake that is the farthest from the master cylinder. And on this truck, you'll see the brake line travels down the passenger side to the little axle splitter over here to the driver's side rear tire. Now that is the longest length. I'm sorry about my dog barking. That is the longest length of brake line from the master cylinder. Typically, you can start with the passenger rear. Often that's the farthest away, but on this truck, it's the driver's side rear. So we're going to get started working on this. All right, I've got two critical points to make when bleeding brakes. One is to never ever let your reservoir, your brake fluid reservoir, go dry. Never let this get down to where all the fluid is in the lines. Then you'll put air into the lines, you'll have to start all over again. The other key point is to get as much of the air out of the line as possible, and try hard to get all of it out. So this process takes some time, so don't be in a hurry. Well, I went ahead and I bled all the brakes without making any videos. I was kind of in a rush, but I ended up not using this thing a whole bunch. I tried it out, and I'm not going to give it a bad review yet. I think I need to work with it a little bit more, but I'm not sure what the problem was. And what I'm thinking was that this little cap that goes on the bleeder screw, this was not making a good seal, so I couldn't tell when I was. It did pull brake fluid through the lines. That was no problem. But there was always, I mean, every time I did this, there was always air in the line. And I don't know if it was leaking in through the little adapter, the little connector that goes onto the bleeder screw, or if there was actually that much air in the line, which I don't think there was. Because what I did is I went back to my old tried and true method, which is this little bleeder helper thing that I made a few years ago. And if you don't have one of these, I recommend you make one. This is just a glass jar. This was salsa in there, and it's got a little metal cap. Doesn't need to be glass. It could be plastic with a plastic cap. It doesn't really make a difference. But all you do is you drill one hole in there. For this is a piece of hard line, brake line, but the hard line, and with some clear, you want to use clear plastic hose so that you can watch the brake fluid coming out and you'll see the air bubbles in there. But it's real simple. You drill one hole. You don't have to use a metal brake line if you just want to stick your plastic line all the way down in there. But you stick it down as far down to the bottom as you can. Now this is old brake fluid. This is actually what came out of the truck, and I replaced it with new. But you get this to go all the way down to the bottom, and you have one more little hole right there for the air to escape. And what you're doing is, and here's the other end, this is just a piece of vacuum tubing that fits over the clear plastic tubing and fits onto the bleeder valve. Very, very snug actually. And anyway, it's like a one-man little bleeder, effectively like what this is. But when you're pumping on your brakes, what happens is you pump it, you push down, you push the fluid out, but when you release those brakes and let the pedal come back up, it actually draws back in some of the fluid and air. So if you just pumped out a bunch of air, it's going to draw that back in. So that's why you put this tube all the way at the bottom. So if it does, which it will, suck back a little bit, all the air just bubbles, whatever it pushed out, bubbles up through the brake fluid and out the little top hole, and whatever's sucked back in is just more brake fluid. So you sacrifice a little bit of brake fluid. You have to have some in there to start with, but it definitely works very well. So this is what I used to finish off the brake bleeding job. So anyway, the truck is finished. The brakes are kind of finished. I'm Not sure if I need to put a new master cylinder on it. I could hear some kind of grinding, scratching noises that kind of disconcerting. Doesn't sound quite right, but anyway, if I end up having to replace all that stuff, then I'll certainly make videos of it. But sorry I wasn't able to make any good brake bleeding videos, but there's probably a whole bunch out there. So anyway, I appreciate you watching.